hopefully you're enjoying your lunch, and hopefully you will learn. How many here have been on their summer vacay? Who's been on their vacay? All right, okay, good. Almost everyone in the room. Farthest place you've been away this summer? Tell me. Yeah?
Norway.
Where in Norway?
I was in Bergen.
Okay, all right, I was just in Oslo. Okay, Norway, okay, yeah. Who else has been somewhere exotic? Go on in. Grab food if you want on the way. Anyone else been somewhere exotic? What about cottaging? With cottaging? Yeah? Nice, nice. What was your favorite thing you took away from Norway? Did you go to Oslo too or not?
I didn't get a chance to go to Oslo. No.
Okay, okay.
The food.
The
Had
food.
a lot of salmon.
Oh, these
So I'm
okay.
appreciating this right now.
Okay. Not quite the same salmon though, right? Good. Great. Well, I want to welcome you on behalf of the CareerJoy team. I want to welcome you to our workshop today. And today, I'm going to be doing some high-level discussions about the changes that are going on in work and how you manage your career, and to talk a little bit about some of the principles that can help you effectively manage your career and really help you achieve career success, because that's obviously what you're here. You're not here because you're interested in having an average career. You're here because you're interested in thinking about how to maximize your opportunities, right? And and then I'll be talking a little bit about ways that we can support you this way. So we work with a number of public service across the country, helping them through career planning, through career identity, through getting ready for promotion, through branding work, through interview prep. So a number of different ways that we help our clients navigate the role within the public sector. And obviously, you all have funding for training, etc. So that's part and parcel of what we provide, is to allocate some of that funding towards career development training, etc. So that's the kind of work we do within. We also work across sectors. So we have a number of clients in different sectors. So, for example, World Vision, the Red Cross, Ellis Dawn, and other clients that we work with across the country, helping with this whole journey of one's career. So, yeah. So today I just want to share a little bit. So, how many of you chose the public sector? How many of you, it was your choice that you chose the public sector? Okay. So, how many of you felt like the public sector chose you? It was sort of like it kind of happened. Okay. So more of you felt like it was an intentional kind of thing. So why did you? For those that chose the public sector, what is it about the public sector that you're drawn to? What was it about it that you were drawn to?
Work for Canadians.
What's that?
Work for Canadians.
Work for Canadians, okay, so for public service, yeah.
Initial perception of stability, that's now gone.
Okay, initial perception of stability, okay. All right, so stability and security, okay, yeah. Why else did you choose the public sector? Yes?
Well, there's some unique roles, like for example, wanting to do human rights or certain aspects of law can only be done in government or federal government for that matter.
You're right, yeah, I know, it's amazing when you think about the kinds of palette of opportunities you get to work on, right? So the types of files you get to work on, those types of things. How many of you would say that your career is progressing as anticipated within the public sector so far, that you're sort of where you anticipated being thus far? How many of you would say that? How would you say that you're feeling like you need to do something different, or you need to evolve or adapt how you're going about it to reach your full potential within the study? I would imagine some of you feel that, right? You feel you need to figure out how to navigate and deal with things slightly differently. Would you agree with that? What are some of the reasons you're seeing that? Maybe express that. What are some of your frustrations or some of the things you're finding that are challenges that are within managing your career so far? Yes?
Some of the classic routes of now for advancement or types of opportunities are not there anymore. So for example, it used to be easier to do interchange or move to a region, get operational experience, shifts and streams, and it's getting very rigid.
Okay, so the rigidity, so the kind of verticalization of departments. So okay, what else would say that maybe some of your challenges within managing career within the public sector?
No support within HR, to offer what they used to 7 years ago.
Okay, so the changing role of HR and how it is evolving or helping to support you in a sense, right? Or your sense of it?
They don't have any clue on whatever you're asking, if there's other jobs opportunity. They don't know.
Okay, all right, yeah. So there's the verticalization. There's the horizontal thing. There's the changing role of HR. You know, it's interesting. We're seeing a couple of things in our role and the work we're doing is the changing role of HR is fairly typical across the country in all sectors. So typically in the past, HR had a very proactive and engaged approach to managing careers or to being actively involved with career management. And again, it's not that they're not. Every department is slightly different. So that's the other thing. Some departments are stronger than the others. So we're finding in some of our clients, and they're a very strong, active, engaged HR group, and other clients are different, or other departments are different. So that's the other thing you probably notice is the government the public sector is a large meta organization, but each department is unique. Correct? Would you see that as well? So the nuance of that is complex. So it's not like it's one employer. I would say that the public sector is a set of multiple employers. Does that make sense? There's a set of multiple employers with different elements that are driven by different things, and they're often driven by the DG or the DM or the ADM or whoever is the senior leader within that department drives the agenda, drives how opportunity occurs, drives how you can have a career within that department. So that's the other thing you're seeing. So it's not like one employer where you're seeing, and again, that's very similar, by the way, if you work for Google, as an example. Like Google is an organization, it's a large transnational organization, but each department within Google would be different, and how somebody might manage their career within one department, one division versus IT versus marketing versus finance versus technology would be different, by the way, right? So one of the interesting things that we're seeing is, and this is really the key thing that if you want to remember anything from our conversation today, it's this one message. It's one message. Are you managing your career, or is your career managing you? Let me say that again. Are you managing your career, or is your career managing you? And here's my experience, that a lot of times we are allowing circumstances or allowing a certain particular boss or particular external things to drive what's going on. And we're reacting and responding to this. And you have to be honest and say, you know what, while there's external circumstances, so there are leaders and managers and departments and agendas, and some of them are very much about you, and some of them are very much about the organization, and sometimes they're very much about your boss, right? So remember, a lot of people, when a manager is managing their team, whose career are they thinking about? Theirs. When you're managing your career, and is that wrong? No, it's not wrong at all, right? But we have to be honest about that, right? So when you understand, it's not a bad agenda, it's just being honest about the agenda at hand. When you're managing your career, whose career are you thinking about? Yours, right? So in a way, it's not selfish, it's self-alignment. It's not selfish, and it's not always with self-interest, although it can be with selfishness, and it can be with self-interest, but it's with self-alignment. So one of the principles you have to think about is really about your needs. Who are you? What is it you want? Where do you want to take yourself? And the interesting thing is, when we leave it up to the system, or we leave it up to the organization, or we blame it on something, right? It's a lot like saying, I'm not where I want to be health-wise, and it's because it's what's in my fridge. Right? Right? And when really, who chose to put what in the fridge? And is it really, and really to me, the principles of career management, and again, I'm not suggesting, by the way, there aren't challenges, there aren't complexity, or there aren't agendas, and I'm not suggesting those things don't occur. What I am suggesting is what do I have control over, and what do I not have control over? So here's a second point today. What is it I have control over, and what do I not have control over? And my observation has been with people who are not where they want to be, oftentimes the allocation of energy and frustration and resources are where they don't have control. And where they do have control, there isn't enough input into those controls. Right? So there isn't enough thoughtfulness into what it may be. So is my career managing me, or is my career managing you? What do you have control over, what do you not have control over? And the third key thing I think you need to be thinking about is, what is your identity? Who are you? Now, interesting, Gallup did a survey of people's strengths. What percentage do you think of people knew their strengths? And this is a global profile. 1.2 million people were surveyed in 69 countries and 99 companies. What percentage of people knew their strengths, do you think it was? 25? Okay. Who would say above 50? Who would say below 50? Who would say below 40? Who would say below 30? Who would say below 20? Yeah, there's the pessimist. No, I'm just kidding. The number is 17, 1-7. 1-7. 17%. So AKA 83% of highly educated professionals working in the workforce, 83% did not have a clear, precise sense of their strengths. Precise sense of their strengths. So let me give you an example. When you think about preciseness, what would be an example of this? Let me just pull up a slide here. It's a lot like this, by the way, when you think about managing your career. Becoming sister wives, that'll never work. I saw those books, by the way, side by side in the chapters. So sometimes managing your career looks a lot like that. Like, yeah, sure, Alan, but that'll never work. It's funny, I think there should be like a blog of where books are placed, and this was literally a natural placement. It wasn't like I moved those books around. That was a natural placement in chapters, right? So really what we're talking about is a reset, a resetting an idea. And there's a lot of things, reasons why it's important to know your identity and know your strengths. And let me sort of share some of the reasons why I think that's important. Because really, the key element that most people make mistakes on are around identity and understanding who they are and where they can go with that. That's been my experience with most professionals. The number one mistake people make is, who am I, what can I do? So a lot of people will say, I am a finance person, I'm a marketing person, I'm a policy person, I'm a lawyer, right? That's how we define ourselves, isn't it? Right? It's like me saying to you, I own a coffee store. What's your next question?
Where?
Well, where? What else did you ask me?
What kind of coffee?
What kind of coffee do I sell? Is it what? Is it a bridgehead? Is it, right? If I say to you bridgehead, do you have a clear picture in my mind what I own? If I say to you Starbucks, do you have a clear picture in your mind what I own? If I say I own a coffee store, do you have a clear picture in your mind? You don't. Therein lies the gap. That a lot of people say, I am this. But it's very broad, very generic, and it's very hard to determine how to navigate your opportunity and career if it's that broad and that generic, right? It's not specific enough. And so a lot of people self-define by these general categories: finance, policy, right, project management, whatever it might be. And that's a big problem. So this, by the way, is an example of branding, right? What's the difference between those two brands? Just the colors. Actually, I love it. Same original flavor. Did anyone see that, by the way? That's been at. So to me, it's like Smarties has a very clear, precise brand. Scaries is just another. So in a way, when I'm talking about these ideas, either you can be smarter about this or it can be scary. What's the difference? Not much. And a lot of people I find are not smartly managing their career. They're managing it by fear. Fear of loss, fear of not reaching my potential, fear of what might happen if I take risk. And let's face it, a lot of people who are drawn for public service are not necessarily the highest risk takers. Would you agree with that? Right? So here's another principle today, in general. It has never been more risky to play it safe. It has never been more risky to play it safe. That the people that are going to be promoted, particularly in the current climate, are people that are going to take risks. That people are going to take risks on projects, they're going to be willing to leave. Like, we were meeting with a deputy minister, or an EVM actually, who is at the Privy Council. And this person has spent 10 years in government, hit a wall, didn't like it, and then quit. Left government for 7 years, came back at a 3 times higher level, and now is progressing to a deputy minister. Was she playing it safe? No. You don't. After 10 years, who quits the government and leaves? Right? So that's an example of somebody who's done extremely well within the public service, but she hasn't said my security is who I work for. She has determined her security is in her skill set and her ability to manage and lead her career, not in circumstances. That is why this particular person is very successful at what she does. And she's also a lovely person, dude, right? So you don't have to be like what people think you have to be sometimes to be successful, right? So that's what thing I observe about people who have been successful is they're willing to take risks. They have a sensibility of their own identity. They have a sensibility of control. And what they want, they go after it. And if it's not where they have it, they'll make decisions to pursue it. Now, I'm not suggesting to you today that you need to go back and quit. Okay? Because that's not a reality for a lot of people. It's not always even the best decision for a lot of people. What I am suggesting is you need to think about what is your driver, what is holding you back, and is it being smart about it or is it fear? And fear is never a great motivator. I would say fear is a great short-term motivator, by the way, but it's not a good long-term motivator. So to me, that's really key. So let me just show you. How many of you were brownies and scouts growing up? Okay, what did that teach you? Sorry, I just look forward there. What did that teach you being a brownie or a scout? What did you take away from that? You're a brownie? Were you a brownie? What did
Responsibilities and how to go camping.
Okay, how to go camping, yeah. Yeah, responsibilities, yeah. Did you have good brownie leaders?
Yes.
Yeah, mentoring? Did you learn how to follow, learn how to lead? Yeah. So I took a, and who else here was a brownie or a scout? Yeah, what did you take away from that?
Teamwork.
Teamwork, yeah. Collaboration. One of the key things I took away was this opportunity to learn something, to try before I buy. Right, these things. Remember these little badges? You got to try things, right? And then you got to see if you like them, and then you built capacity, and then you got a badge, right? And I think that was a key thing I learned. The other key thing I learned was being prepared, was preparing for opportunity. So this idea of preparation leads to opportunity, or opportunity and preparation are very much aligned. And that's another principle I think in managing one's career is, are you preparing? Are you getting prepared for opportunity versus waiting for it? So again, another principle I see is people are waiting for opportunity versus preparing for opportunity. That's different, isn't it? Right? Preparation means I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm going to take courses. I'm going to do whatever those pieces I need to do to be prepared for. And the other thing I would say about career management, there's no magic bullet. How many of you have taken a Myers-Briggs types of personality test? All right, did that tell you what the right career is? Did it tell you, and that's another myth that often our industry proposes, is if you just figure out if you're an extrovert or an introvert, or you're one of these 4 categories, you're a 4-letter acronym, and based on that 4-letter acronym, you will figure out a correct career for you and you'll live happily ever after. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Tinder, right? Right? If I just swipe, I'll figure it out, right? I'll just keep swiping, right? It just doesn't work like that. So the other reality I would say about career management is something we don't talk about, but we know it's true, is finding a partner a complex journey? It is, correct? It's not just swiping. There's a whole bunch of things that happen to ultimately be in the right relationship, correct? And it takes a lot of thoughtfulness, it takes a lot of confidence, it keeps a lot of self-knowledge, it keeps a lot of no's before you get to the right yes, correct? Same thing with career management. Career management is a complex, dynamic, moving target with lots of moving parts. And for us to simply say, do what you love and money will follow. Figure out what color you are, or understand your personality profile and you'll live happily ever after. Is that true? It is not true, right? There's a lot of moving parts. There's no magic bullet to this whole thing. So one of the things I'd also say about career management is, there's one thing to know thyself. There's another thing to be true to thyself. Those are pretty common ideas, correct? Know thyself, be true to thyself. When did those ideas arise in our culture? About 4,000 years ago, yeah, right? So not a new idea, right? Know thyself, be true to thyself. The other thing I would say in today's world is market thyself. Market thyself. The great brands know how to market themselves. Now, we would agree with this statement, correct? You need to learn how to sell yourself better. Would you agree with that? You all agree with that? Yeah? How many of you like being sold to? How many of you like to buy? Put up your hand if you like to buy. I did not say sell yourself. That's another myth we have around this career management. I gotta learn how to sell myself. I gotta learn how to, glad hand and shake people's hands and smile and be smarmy and promote myself. No, it's know thyself, be true to thyself, and market thyself. Market thyself, which is different, which is where these tools that we get involved with helping our clients, like LinkedIn and branding, and your Twitter account and your Facebook, and all these sorts of tools out there that, done right, are incredibly powerful and incredibly online. And that's about authenticity, because today the know thyself idea is ultimately leads to the road of authenticity, I believe. And the road of authenticity is the road of success. The road of authenticity is the road of success, because you can't fake it till you make it today. Because we all know fakers, don't we? Some of you are working for fakers. Some of you have worked for fakers. Some of you are led by fakers. So we don't work very well in that scenario. So to me, this is the idea of really knowing thyself, being true to thyself, and then also marketing thyself, and thinking about how to do that. And that doesn't matter where you work, because you live in a scenario that you think, oh, there's an open, we're having a competition. Okay. In the competition category, how open is that really? Is it really open? It seems like it's open, right? It seems like it's a fair and transparent system. I'm not saying it's not fair or transparent, but I'm going to suggest to you that a lot of times that position is already pre-filled by somebody, right? It's predetermined who's going to, who will be a fit for that, right? So to me, this is key to be thinking about is how does one know thyself, be true to thyself, and market thyself on a consistent basis? And that doesn't matter what organization you work for, by the way. Because to your point about earlier, in HR, it used to be very much a structured model that will help manage your career, right? And we're going to come alongside you, we're going to provide guidance, but really now you are all independent contractors. You're an independent contractor. You're an employee, but you're an independent entity that has to understand how to self-launch. It's much like when you went to university, nobody helped you be successful there other than yourself, correct? So when you think about it, coming from university, coming the academic system into where you are now, it's no different. It's no different, including the public service. That it's incredibly competitive. The opportunities come and go quickly, and you have to navigate that in a smart way. And that's really my main point for today, is that really thinking about your career management one-on-one and how you do this is really fundamental as it relates to dealing with transition and managing one's career, getting success. And when I've seen people do this, it doesn't matter at what level. And if you look at when I talk to, how many of you envision yourself at some point being in EX, in the governance, in the public sector? Some point you'd like to be in EX. And maybe that's not your goal, but one of the things I'll say to you is when I talk to EXs, when we talk to EXs, that is the pattern of success we see with all of them, is they know themselves, they're true to themselves, and they market themselves. They've got great mentorship, they've got good connections, they cross-connect, they take risk, they know how to be smart about their navigating the model, and they haven't allowed sort of the system to navigate on their behalf. And a lot of them are surprised, by the way, at their own success, I'll be honest. A lot of them were doing this intuitively. They weren't necessarily doing this intentionally, you know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't necessarily know they were doing it at the time, but if they look back retrospectively, say, yeah, I was leaving that department because I didn't like that boss, or I met somebody at a trade conference and we met for coffee and I found out that a competition was open and we really liked each other, and I got the inside track on the competition and I got the job and I was able to move departments, right? So it seems like the public sector is different than private sector. Guess what? It's not. Public sector, not-for-profit, and private, they're just people working on problems, budgets, and opportunities. It's no different. That's the myth, I think, within the public sector. Is there's some magic, there's some open system, it's not. It's the same as every other organization. People are promoted, people get opportunity, people fail, people have success based upon these principles. So how can we help you? is really about the who, right? The who in Whoville. Anyone read that book? Dr. Seuss? Who is the who in Whoville? Right? Who are you in a sense? And I think a lot of the work we do can be around identity. It can be around how can you figure that out in a much more precise way. And this is not about sitting in a workshop with 30 other people, because identity is not a team-based conversation. It's actually about individual conversation. Now, we also provide, from time to time, some programs that involve with multiple people. So that is an option, by the way, but it's individualized in the way we approach it. So really, do you have a clear sense of who you are in a precise way? Not just a Myers-Briggs, what color am I, or a disc, which is probably some of the stuff you take, but actually a much more refined and precise way is how we can help you. So understanding that, it may be in identifying the right career paths within the public sector, outside the public sector. How many of you are maybe even considering looking at options outside the public sector at some point? Yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah. So we're seeing that more and more, by the way, where people are moving in and out of the public sector. And the good news about us is because we're working cross-sector, and we have 16 offices across the country, right? So we have a lot to offer that as far as, let me show you that, go back to that, across the country. We're really literally across the country and working in different sectors, different organizations, different geography. These are the types of clients we work with in the public sector and private sector, so a number of different types of clients. Now again, I'm not suggesting that that you leave where you are, I'm just suggesting that we have a bigger view of the opportunities and needs that are in the market. The other thing is our team, which is just supports our team, but in our team we have a large team of coaches across the country that help, and in Ottawa here specifically, to help guide and have this conversation with you. So different levels of skills are all certified. I always say they're 30-something, 40-something employees, so they're not new grads trying to figure this out, right? They're people that have had a lot of good experience helping professionals make strategic decisions. Yesterday I was at Ellis Don. I don't know if you're familiar with Ellis Don, but they're a large project management firm. And I love what they said. We're not builders, we're strategic thinkers, helping our clients maximize their resources. And this is saying to us, we're not necessarily just career coaches in a way, we're really strategic thinkers to come alongside you. And a lot of people think, why can't you do this by yourself, right? Well, why do you go to the doctor? Why do you have a lawyer? I think that's another myth around career management is I should be able to figure this out by myself, and if I don't, I'm a failure at this. And I think what we have seen really grow is the value of third-party, independent, objective advice. And we're also the government standing up for us. We're on the standing agreement, so again, and we can also work with you to navigate within your department how to get funded for programs. So a number of you may ask, oh, I'd like to do this, but how do I get funded? And we have lots of ways to kind of help with that, to help you guide that in different ways. So our programs are one-on-one, or we can do also some workshop type of stuff internally. Our team is, I would say it's three things. They're smart, they're practical, they're wise, and the fourth thing is they care. They actually care about helping clients reach their potential. And the other thing I'd say, it's always about practical. How does this really work in your world, not in a book world? We don't live in a book world, right? You get up in the morning, you take the OC trams, you go to the real world. So to me, this is really key to this. So guiding that could be in identity, it could be in career transition, it could be in helping you prepare for competition. So we do issues around resume, branding, interview coaching, competition coaching. So we do that as well. Or maybe in you determining that you want to pursue leadership within the public sector. What would that look like, and how would you do that, and how do you be more effective at that? So those are kind of things that we would work with you one-on-one through that in a number of different programs, and they range from smaller to larger depending on the level. And we also work at different levels. So we have executive coaching, professional coaching, and what we call young professional programs. So we have 3 levels depending where your level is in your career, and we have coaches that are kind of aligned with those different levels. What I would say is it's not magic science, it's not magic, but it is complex, this journey you're on, which is to give it credibility. And I think if we understand the complexity of the question in our lives, then I think we deal with it more respectfully, and we make better decisions around it than if we don't. That's been my experience. Great. So I'm going to open this up for Q&A, for a bit of Q&A, and then we can also talk about how we can help you after this. Some questions you may have about your own career situation or about what you're observing. Yes.
Can I maybe ask, in terms of if you were to do a one-on-one coaching, what kind of things have you offered to public servants at the middle management level? In
Yeah,
terms
good
of
question.
What is affordable?
Yeah.
What you're seeing for standing offers?
Yeah, let me just show you pull this up here. I had this open earlier, so.
So there's our website. I'm sure you've been on. How many of you been on our page, careerjoy.com? So there's a bunch of information on there. And under there, you'll see the services page. You'll see under here for the Public Service of Canada. You'll see a page there. And under here, you'll see different types of programs that we have, right? So a lot of times it could be for a manager. It could be under identity programs, where AKA you're looking at a leadership identity program. So we have leadership identity for managers. So where managers say, you know what, I'm the leader, I am a manager now. I want to figure out how to be an EX, and so therefore the identity program is actually about leadership identity. It's not so much about career identity. It's more about, okay, I'm a leader. Now where do I go from here? How do I be a better leader? How do I? And the ranges the programs can range on the leadership level. And Mark can talk to you about that specifics. So you can work with him in your budget, what your budget may be. But there's a range generally we see. So depending what level you're at, there's different. Executives have a level, and managers have a level, and young professionals have a level. So we generally have kind of budgets aligned with those three different levels. So generally in the mid-level manager, it's usually a leadership program with assessments and evaluating your options, looking at your career, looking at the opportunities that are there, how to brand yourself, market yourself for competitions is often what we'd be involved with. So leadership and branding is often what we're doing. And it could be from very extensive to more minimal, again, depending on what your needs and your budget are, right? So it could range from, we could be working with you from 3 months to a year to ongoing. We have lots of clients, by the way, that we work with on an ongoing basis who meet with us once a quarter or once a month as they're working through their career. So again, it depends on your departments. So a lot of it's about the coach's ability to take the data, the context and the content, and overlay on that wisdom. Does that make sense? Because you have a context and you have skills. So the content is like the skills you work on, what your skills are, what your abilities are. The context is where you've been, what your needs are, where you want to go. And the next piece of that is the wisdom piece of it. How do I navigate that so I can make better decisions? A lot of times, how many of you are currently watching the Olympics right now? How many of our Olympic athletes have a coach? They actually have 2 coaches. Every single Olympic athlete carded for Canada has 2 coaches. They have a technical coach and they have a sports psychologist. Every single Olympic athlete. Now, does anyone say, why do they do that? Like, that's kind of crazy. Why can't they figure it out on their own? So why is it we understand that world-class performance has coaching as a part of it? And what we've seen in our world of coaching in general is that the coaching business of coaching has exploded on the work side of the fence, because there's been a recognition that those very same principles that help world-class athletes reach their potential is the same within that. So a lot of our work becomes technical, and there's a psychological aspect to coaching. What are my own barriers? What are my own limiting thoughts? What are my things I don't know about myself? You know, how many of us have believed something about ourselves and had a boss see something in ourselves, or a mentor see something in ourselves that we didn't see before? How many of you have had that experience? All of us have a thing. Okay, and so it takes generally an independent third-party perspective. I always say, don't believe everything you think. Don't believe everything you think, because a lot of times we're not always thinking right, and we need to know what to believe, what not to believe. So yeah, so there's a number of different programs that we work with in that way. We also do retirement. We also do talent management. So there's different ways we can help at the mid-level. Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, so I might sound like a blabbering idiot because I don't know what my question is, but I was wondering if you can elaborate a bit on program identity. You talk a lot, but almost with the assumption that everyone wants to move up, and I don't think that managerial positions are for everyone. And self-identity as like a policy analyst or whatever, in the government you're very categorized. Like the nature of the beast is that you're categorized in a classification, and that the skills you have are transferable based on the topic matter. so you're very transferable into basically every department. So I just wanted to hear maybe your perspective on someone in, like, kind of navigating all the options, and maybe not so much in the hierarchy. And I think it's challenging, you know, with all your peers, because it feels like because there's a ladder, everyone should climb it, and it's not what leads to success. And not that we need to go into a definition of success, because it's different for everyone, but maybe just elaborate a little bit from that perspective.
Great question. What's your name?
What's Nikki?
Nikki. Great question. Interesting enough, the company's name is Career Joy. Right? And what we mean by that is not necessarily that you're pursuing a title. It's that you're pursuing meaningful fulfillment in your career. And in some cases, that means a title. And again, if you think classically within the public sector, in a way, it's like, well, what are you? You're a 6, a 5, like you're an EX. What are you? EX1 and 2, right? So a lot of times you're absolutely correct that the system you're in is very much driven by, okay, you're on that. Now how do you get to the next, right? And so as a company, our philosophy is not so much driven by the ladder, but driven by what it makes your work better. Our brand tagline is work period made better period. And work period made better period is life period made better period. So for you, what would it take for your work to be made better? And it may not be the next number, right? It may be working on something content that you're more interested in, or working on a process or a program that has more value to you. And it may be that you're happy to be at a certain level. We've actually had people say, I actually had a person who said his dad, one of our clients, his dad was a deputy minister. And he said, I grew up with my dad home every night for dinner, right? He said, now no deputy minister is home every night for dinner. They're just not. It's not the reality. He said, I'm not willing to go above this because the cost is too high to my career. I mean, to my personal life. That I'm quite happy both economically and status-wise and to be at this level. And I just want to figure out how to navigate my career around this layer. I'm not interested in progress. I'm not interested in being EX. I'm not interested in being a DM. I'm not interested in being ADM. I don't have any desire for that. I'm really interested in working at interesting work with a really good group of people, and I can go home every day and enjoy it and have space and time and energy for the rest of my life. So a lot of the work then is figuring out how do you navigate that piece, and how do you figure out how to navigate across horizontally the sector, and how do you position yourself, and how do I be intentional, how do I protect yourself? Because even you could get drawn up through momentum, right? So your boss really wants to promote you, and they're driving your career. They see your potential, and they want you to do more because they want to replace themselves sometimes, or they just believe in you, right? So there's a tremendous amount of what I call upward vacuum, right? Sucking people up, right? And not all of that is because they want to. Yeah, Greg, go ahead, because Greg's one of our coaches. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going to follow up.
Yeah, Greg, no, go ahead.
Was anybody here at the session we held at City Hall in June, I think it was? We had it was managing your career in the public service, or your career path, I think.
Yeah.
And we had a panel, people with varying degrees of experience and so on. And two of the panelists were people I knew personally, quasi-professionally as well, and so on. And I identified them for very specific purposes. One was somebody who is at a very senior level in PCO, and she's had amazing experience and so on. And I basically said to her, look, you know, you've had an amazing career, but you've had a lot of sacrifice. She was married, she has a child, she's moved all over. I think those of you who are women, you understand the sacrifices that a lot of women make, especially. And I asked her, can you speak to that? Are you comfortable with that? She said, yes, I am. And in fact, we were not asked enough to do that. And so there was no regret. She's doing amazing work and so on. But there was an acknowledgement that there are sacrifices to be made and that not everybody is prepared to make them. Another woman who was on the panel, and actually in this case it doesn't matter that she was a woman, she had been in management, and as she self-identified, it was too much. She went on stress leave. And she went back down, as it were, to PS level, I think it was, in immigration, and was happy again. And her story was basically to reinforce precisely what you're saying, is that we're not all here to climb the ladder, we're here to be fulfilled, we're here to find work made better, and to have some joy in our career. One other thing that I find frequently in the clients I work with is also kind of a related aspect, and that is finding everything in the career. And it's interesting, but how many people kind of think again is, oh, maybe it's okay for me to work at my job, think well of myself, proud of the work I do, but not necessarily that's where I'm going to get all my mission or all my values and so on. In fact, I kind of had an aha moment when somebody like you said to me, looked at me like I had two heads and said, I don't need to do that at my job. I have an amazing life outside my job too. And so sometimes it's helping people, find that right track, navigating horizontally, but also just reminding people what Alan said earlier is that your brand is not just on a PS, one, three.
Yeah, so it's really, that's the interesting thing about the work is that really, I think that's what the one-on-one coaching versus sort of a programmatic approach. It says everyone wants the same thing. So if it's ours is more of a framework of saying what, to your point earlier, which is a larger discussion, what is success for you versus success for you versus success for you versus success for me versus, like each of us has a different measure of what career success is, right? And how does one navigate to align our career so that it meets our personal and professional objectives? And that's really what we're about. So it's not about necessarily this. It's funny, we just had a meeting with a senior exec before here, and she's like, you know what, I've got a little bit of time left. I just want to work in an interesting project. I'm not interested in another promotion. That's not really what's driving me right now, right? I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I just want to figure out how to do better, or even think about maybe when I leave, how to do something that's more interesting for me. So that was sort of her driver, The other interesting thing, because we're working cross-sector, we also have this meta view of options that are outside the public service for those that want to explore that or figure out how to hybrid that a bit, whatever that might be. So that's the other benefit of kind of our world, is that we're not strictly career and leadership coaches focused on the public sector with a very narrow view of that. We are a lot of depth and width in the public sector, but also beyond it. And I think that's a view that helps our clients maybe think a little bit more laterally, a little bit more creatively, that we can bring into the conversation with you deciding what you want to do with that. Right? So the other thing I would say about coaching is not about telling you what to do. It's really much like, I don't know if you've ever had somebody renovate your house or work with a project manager. You come alongside somebody and they work with you for, what is it you want? What does it look like for you? And it's a collaborative thing. So that's the other thing I would say about our approach is it's collaborative. It's not a top-down, we're the expert, we're going to tell you what you should define, right? So a lot of it's collaborative, independent, strategic thinking, exploratory thinking within a free format, if that makes sense, versus that this is what this client has who went to your school, who graduated the same year as you, therefore you should be, right? So I don't know, is that helpful? Yeah. But the thing I'm really proud about is that it's, we actually have mugs made for our clients, and each of our mugs, they are hand pottered by a potter out of Kingston. Now, we're the largest boutique organization in the country. We could go to a manufacturer and say, give us 1,000 mugs, and they're $8.52 later, or whatever, right? And they come out of the factory, correct? It's stamped CareerJoy. And that's just as I fit who we are, that, I believe that each person that goes through their process is unique. And I always say to each, when we get a client mug, it's like, you're unique, just like this mug. It's nuance, and it's yes, it's a mug, but it's that. So that's really the approach we take, is it's very much it's a pottery approach versus a manufactured approach. So that's what we look at this world. So. The other interesting thing is, because we do a lot of work on the leadership development side, I do think that's helpful because you have the organizationalist perspective as well. So. Cognizant of timing, other questions? From next steps, for those of you that are interested. Mark's here, so he'll be around for a couple minutes. So you can send Mark, I think Mark's cards here as well. So we'll be following up with you with specific questions or comments you may have about how we can support you in your journey. The other thing is that you may say, this is really helpful, this is all I needed today, thank you very much. If that's the case, that's awesome, we appreciate you coming. But also, if you know others that are exploring this question and are looking for support, what I just asked you is that if you wouldn't mind letting us know, or referring them to us, or just mentioning that you've heard about us, and liking us on Facebook, or sharing it on Twitter and Facebook, LinkedIn as well. That can be helpful, because a lot of people are looking for this. They don't know what to do with this. That's the other thing I'd say. A lot of people don't know where to go with this question. They really don't. They don't know who to trust with it, and they don't know, why do I have this question? So the thing I would say is to at least entrust us with exploring that question with a person. If you know somebody that's exploring that, we'd be honored with that. So, has this been helpful today? Any thoughts that people take away as they leave? Just throw it out. Just an idea that's helped them today. If you want to throw that out for the room, one idea that's helped you today.
I like the idea of both that's been brought up about the career success doesn't necessarily mean you have to go up and up and up. That you can go laterally and find different areas that are satisfying, challenging.
Yeah. Any other ideas that can take away from today?
I like what you said. Are you managing your career, or your career is managing you?
Yep.
Some of us, well, my career is managing.
Yeah. So you have that
I just
opportunity.
follow.
Yeah, follow exactly. Yeah. Good thoughts or comments? Great. Okay, so Mark's here for a few minutes. We want to talk to Mark. Any questions? I know we've got and Greg as well. Yeah, Greg as well with us. So thank you very much, and we'll give the rest of your afternoon. And also, again, if I can help you at all, then reach out to Mark, contact us through the website or whatever, and we'll have that conversation with you.
And Greg.
And Greg.